Hello and welcome to your weekly episode with the Grocery Guru. This is episode 38 and we are here with that guru, Andrew Grant. Andrew, how are you?
Good morning.
Now, Andrew, I know that the market shares have just been published and you've got a unique take on what you think is happening.
I'm not sure about unique take, but yeah, we always wait for the Kantar data that comes out 20-ish of every month because I think it's the most comprehensive view of what's happening in the market. And we've covered it. I think we've covered it maybe 2 or 3 times since the pandemic started. And yeah, there's some subtleties in the figures for me. I mean, overall, total multiples are still up 11% on 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So as we said a few episodes ago, with the pandemic technically ending, people are going to go back out to pubs and restaurants. They're not going to do as much home shopping, and therefore, the multiples are probably in for a fairly rough ride during the summer. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a rough ride. Maybe a few little bumps. I mean, they're down 4.6% on the year. Tesco down 3.7%, Sainsbury's down 3%. So yeah, that's probably not too bad. They probably expected worse.
So let me just put that back in people's heads. So 2 years ago, for the last 12 weeks to 23rd of July, the multiples are up 11%. That's right, isn't it?
On 2 years ago, so
2 years ago. So up 11%, but on a year ago they're down 5%, give or take.
Yeah. And obviously a year ago was the peak of the pandemic. So yeah, more people. If you take a 2-year view, the grocers have been really successful at riding this pandemic. But within the numbers, a few interesting things. Co-op and Iceland are the worst performers. Not surprisingly, a co-op is on every street corner. They don't have many big superstores, so they were the big winners of the pandemic when people just literally didn't want to shop at a big store where there were loads of other people who could potentially pass on the virus. They popped to the local co-op. So and to a lesser extent, I guess Iceland being sort of city centre or town centre location. So I can understand why co-op figures don't look brilliant, although they're still up double digit on 2 years ago.
So they're up 12% on 2 years, but they're down 15% year on year. Okay.
Yeah. But what's interesting for me is I think a little bit of the slightest start of some blue water between Tesco and Sainsbury's and Asda and Morrisons is starting to appear. So Aldi and Lidl have come back. They're flat on last year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So probably something in there about they don't have home shopping. And home shopping is down. I forget the numbers. You may have had more to hand. Oh yeah, so online groceries dropped by 2.6%.
Yeah.
So I think Aldi and Lidl have picked that up. So Aldi and Lidl flat. Tesco and Sainsbury's doing really well. I mean, Tesco to put on 4.4 points of market share is almost unheard of in the last 10 years. But Asda losing market share, as are Morrisons, and twice the decline of Tesco and Sainsbury's on a year.
So we've got Tesco hitting the high of 27% market share.
Yep.
They're doing well.
Yep.
And you think they're stealing that predominantly from Asda and Morrisons?
No, actually. I think it's a bit more complex than that. I think Tesco in particular, and we've said it before, have found a way to neutralise Aldi and Lidl. Okay, right. Yeah, their price match campaign, their club card promotions, I think are fantastic. They're fantastic value. Yeah. I think Tesco, and to a similar extent Sainsbury's, have found a way to stop the bleed of shoppers to Aldi and Lidl. I don't think Asda and to some extent Morrisons have. Okay. So I think the Aldi and Lidl bounce back is partly to the fact that less people are doing home shopping. But that home shopping could be stealing from Asda and Morrisons rather than Tesco and Sainsbury's.
It could be, and as you said, so online, people are doing less online. They're going back to bricks and mortar shopping. I read something in here that said, let's have a look.
Still 13% of the market, though.
Yes, it is. It is. It's still huge. Yeah.
So I think it hit 18, didn't it, at the peak of the pandemic? And I think one of the grocers reported 20-odd% online sales.
Yeah.
But 13 is still double what it was 2 years ago.
It is very true. Very true.
So it's pretty serious. And you know, yeah, just to bring the online thing into focus, you know, Ocado's growth, you know, on 2 years ago, up 50%. I mean, absolutely flying. So as long as they can stop their robots fighting with each other, they're probably doing pretty well.
You're referring to the fire between the robots at a depot recently, aren't you?
I just find it so funny that 6 robots decided to gang up on each other and have a big fist fight in the middle of the warehouse.
Robo Wars. Ocado Robo
Yeah.
Wars. Maybe they'll to start that. Maybe it'll catch on.
I used to like that. Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's quite an interesting time to look at what's happening in the market, because obviously, you know, pandemic technically over. Obviously this week there's all these problems of, you know, shop workers and depot workers and drivers being pinged, and I think that's short-term blip. But going into the autumn, yeah, I think there's some interesting stuff going on here, because I think Tesco and Sainsbury is very well set. Asda and Morrisons, you know, Asda recently been taken over. That always causes problems. So is their eye off the ball, and is that going to cause longer term problems? And obviously Morrisons right in the middle of a bidding battle. That's guaranteed to take your eye off the ball. So I think Asda and Morrisons are the ones to watch through the autumn, and in terms of will they struggle. Aldi and Lidl doing pretty, I think will continue to do well. And Ocado steamrolling, you know, steamrolling on. So interesting to watch Asda and Morrisons over the next 6 months, I think.
Okay. All right. You've seen it here. What other nuggets have you got from the Kantar data?
I think that was it. The only other one we haven't mentioned is Waitrose. Yeah, Waitrose picking up again. I think their customers, it might be a complete generalization, but you know, I think generally their customers slightly older profile, probably more wary of shopping during the pandemic.
Yeah. So
I think Waitrose probably hit harder, but you know, still their 2-year growth is the same as the others, but their 1-year growth is better. So you know, maybe Waitrose are starting to become a bit of a star. And I did read, was it last week? Yeah, is it John Lewis and Waitrose are going to start building their own flats and houses, and you'll have built-in Waitrose food cabinets and all this sort of stuff.
And also there was the departure, I think it was 6 months ago now, of the commercial director at Waitrose, Rupert Thomas, who I think now is chief commercial officer at Fortnum & Mason, I think.
Okay.
So he's moved there, so maybe that's bringing some changes as well. The only other thing I picked up that I thought was useful was the Morrisons still doing very well with counters. Obviously, most retailers are cutting back on counters. Morrisons must be picking that up to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, it is sort of their USP and always has been, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, an interesting month to review that Kantar data. We'll see what August brings.
Okay. All right, Andrew, we'll talk to you next week. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Bye.